Have you ever felt like you're just going through the motions of life, checking all the boxes, meeting the expectations, doing what you were told would make you happy, and yet, deep down, something feels fundamentally off? Like there's a part of you that's watching it all unfold from a distance, quietly whispering, "This isn't it." You've got the job, maybe the house, maybe even people around you, but there's a restlessness, a heaviness that doesn't go away. And you try to explain it, maybe even try to fix it. You go to the gym, you eat better, you distract yourself with work, or you scroll until your eyes burn. Maybe you even talk to someone, and they say it's anxiety or burnout or just a phase. Maybe you get medication. But despite all that, it stays. Carl Jung didn't see this as a random failure of the mind. He saw it as something much deeper, something sacred even. To him, these symptoms weren't just noise to be silenced. They were signals from the soul. When you live a life that's not aligned with who you really are, when your job, your relationships, your environment, your very identity are shaped by expectations and not by authenticity, your psyche eventually rebels. But because we live in a society that doesn't have a language for the soul, we misinterpret these signals. We call them disorders, illnesses, chemical imbalances. And while those labels may offer temporary relief or structure, they rarely ask the deeper question: what is this pain trying to tell me about how I'm living? Jung believed that the soul speaks to us in symbols, in dreams, in emotions that feel overwhelming or irrational. And when we ignore it, when we silence its voice in the name of productivity or appearances or social approval, it finds another way to express itself. Through the body, through the nervous system, through that sinking feeling you get on Sunday nights, through that pit in your stomach when you wake up, through the inexplicable tears, the chronic fatigue, the numbness. This isn't weakness, this is protest. This is your inner self saying, "I can't live like this anymore." And yet we've created a world where that protest is pathologized, where pain is seen as failure, where if you're not okay, the goal is to get you back to normal as quickly as possible. But what is this normal we're returning to? A 9 to 5 you can't stand? Constant pressure to perform, to look happy, to compete, to consume, relationships built on convenience instead of connection, a life so filled with noise that you can't even hear your own thoughts. Jung didn't think this was sustainable. He believed that ignoring these inner calls leads not to healing, but to fragmentation. You start splitting off parts of yourself to survive. You present one version of you to the world, polished, stable, efficient, but inside, you're hollow. You lose touch with your instincts, with your creativity, with your joy. Over time, this disconnection becomes your new baseline. You don't even notice the numbness anymore. You just keep going. You adapt so well that you forget you were ever supposed to feel alive. This is what Jung warned us about, that when you treat only the symptoms, when you numb the anxiety or cover the sadness without ever asking why they're there, you create the illusion of improvement. But under the surface, the wound deepens, and eventually the divide between your inner truth and your outer life becomes unbearable. That's when collapse comes: burnout, breakdown, existential crisis, and the world around you will still tell you the same thing. Take something, rest a little, then get back to it. But what if the problem was never you? What if the real sickness is the world that taught you to betray yourself? This is why Jung saw suffering not as something to eliminate, but as the beginning of a journey. Real transformation doesn't start with happiness, it starts with the courage to face your own darkness, to ask hard questions, to sit in discomfort long enough to hear what your soul has been trying to say all along. Pain, Jung believed, is not the enemy, it is the guide. It is the call to individuation, to becoming whole. So the question is not, how do I get rid of this anxiety? Or how do I fix myself? The question is, what in my life have I been ignoring? What parts of me have I silenced to be accepted, to feel safe, to avoid disappointment? And what would happen if I finally stopped running? There's a reason the world doesn't want you to wake up. Because the moment you reconnect with your soul, you become harder to control. You become less predictable, less obedient, less interested in playing roles that don't serve you. Disconnected people are easier to manage. They buy more things to fill the void, they question less, and they go along with the script they've been handed without resistance. They're ideal consumers, passive citizens, and docile workers. And when the inevitable collapse happens, when anxiety, depression, or burnout knock them down, the system responds with surface-level treatments, quick fixes, more distractions, but never the truth. Carl Jung believed that healing starts by confronting the very world that wounded you. That means questioning how you were shaped, what parts of you were rejected, what dreams were buried just so you could fit in. It's not a comfortable process. In fact, it's deeply painful. Because you have to admit that much of your life may not have been truly yours. You may have become a version of yourself that was designed to survive, to be accepted, but not to thrive. And the more you identify with that false self, the more distant you become from your real one. That's why healing begins with honesty. Raw, difficult honesty. Only by facing the truth of your disconnection can you begin to reconnect. This is the beginning of what Jung called individuation. A word that might sound abstract, but carries the essence of what it means to truly heal and become whole. Individuation is not self-improvement. It's not about becoming more productive or more appealing to others. It's about reclaiming your full self, the real, complex, flawed, powerful self that has always been there beneath the surface. It's the process of no longer being a reflection of what the world wants you to be and instead becoming what your own soul is asking of you. And this isn't some tidy process you can do over a weekend. Individuation is messy. It's slow. It's sometimes terrifying. Because to become whole, you first have to face everything you've pushed into the dark. All the anger you never expressed, the envy you pretend doesn't exist, the parts of you that feel too ugly, too raw, too dangerous to show. Jung called this the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche made up of everything we've disowned. And here's the thing, as long as you ignore your shadow, it controls you. It leaks into your relationships, your choices, your reactions. But when you face it, when you integrate it, the shadow becomes a source of energy, clarity, and truth. Jung famously said, "Those who look outside, dream. Those who look inside, awaken." To awaken means to see yourself fully, without excuses, without masks, without judgment. It means embracing the parts of you that don't fit the mold, that don't make you easier to like or easier to manage. And only through that internal reckoning can you begin to live a real life. Not a performative one, not a life that just looks good on the outside, but one that's anchored in truth. This is where the idea of wholeness becomes so powerful. Jung wasn't interested in perfection. He didn't believe the goal of life was to be flawless or endlessly optimized. He believed the goal was to be whole, to bring all your inner parts, light and dark, noble and messy, into alignment. To stop fighting yourself and start accepting yourself. Because that's where real healing happens. Not in trying to become what others expect, but in aligning your life with who you already are underneath it all. And yes, it's a lonely road at times. You may outgrow people, jobs, habits, even entire belief systems. You may lose things along the way that once felt like everything. But what you gain is far more important. You gain yourself. And when you start making decisions from that place of inner wholeness, everything shifts. Your relationships become more honest. Your suffering becomes more meaningful. Even your struggles take on a new light. They're no longer signs that something's wrong with you, but signs that something inside you is finally waking up. But if all of this is so powerful, so liberating, then why do so few people walk this path? Why do so many remain stuck in routines that numb them, in patterns that drain them, in versions of themselves that they no longer even recognize? Jung believed the answer lies in the modern crisis of meaning, that deep, silent epidemic where everything looks fine on the surface, but underneath there's a hollowness no achievement or distraction can fix. And maybe, just maybe, your pain isn't something to be rid of. Maybe it's your soul's last attempt to pull you back to yourself. Have you ever looked around and noticed how many people are simply existing, not really living? So many are stuck in this automatic loop of shallow commitments, constant distractions, and a weariness that no amount of sleep can fix. Carl Jung didn't see this kind of suffering as accidental. He saw it as systemic, as a reflection of something deeply wrong in how we live. And he believed that much of our modern psychological pain stems from one harsh truth. life has lost its meaning. And when Jung talked about meaning, he wasn't referring to some grand cosmic mission or spiritual enlightenment. He meant something personal, real, tangible, a sense of alignment between who you are and how you live, a life that feels guided by your own inner truth, not just shaped by the pressures of a world obsessed with success, but completely indifferent to the soul. Jung noticed something powerful in his work with patients. Their deepest symptoms, things like anxiety, depression, apathy, often began to lift not when they were medicated, not when they made more money, but when they started building a life with meaning, when they found a why. Because if you know why you're living, you can endure almost anything. But if your life lacks meaning, then even the most pleasurable experiences become dull. Even the biggest achievements feel empty. And this is exactly what we're seeing today. Not just a burnout crisis, but an epidemic of spiritual emptiness. People aren't just overwhelmed, they're unanchored. Their lives are busy but aimless, full of motion but lacking direction. Jung understood that human beings need to feel connected to something larger than themselves. They need to believe that their life matters, that their choices have weight, that their existence has consequence. Without that, we don't just get tired, we collapse from within. We feel lost, confused, and disconnected. And in the face of that inner collapse, the world offers nothing but distractions. Endless entertainment, social media likes, empty productivity hacks, self-help sound bites, all of them trying to patch a hole that can only be filled by truth. And the truth is this: many people are living lives they never truly chose. They were pushed into careers that don't align with their values. They're stuck in relationships that drain them. They live in places that suffocate them. They repeat routines that slowly erase who they really are. Their bodies carry the stress, their minds shut down, their spirits dim. Because what's missing isn't a chemical imbalance, it's direction. It's not a lack of motivation, it's a loss of identity. This is where Jung's ideas become not just important, but urgent. Because he wasn't trying to help people function better in a broken system. He wanted them to wake up, to live authentically, to have the courage to say, this life isn't mine and I won't live like this anymore. But how do you do that? How do you rebuild a meaningful life when everything around you is built to distract you from your essence? Jung believed the answer lies in reconnecting with the unconscious. Because deep within you, in the parts of yourself you've ignored or forgotten, lies the key to who you really are. And that's where purpose is born. The unconscious isn't just a shadowy place filled with trauma and repressed memories. Jung saw it as a vast inner world, symbolic, complex, and rich with truth. It holds everything about you that you've rejected, denied, or been told to hide. Your rawest instincts, your truest desires, your fears, your pain, your buried power, and all of it matters. Because what you don't face in the unconscious doesn't go away. It runs your life from behind the scenes. Jung put it best when he said, "What you do not bring to consciousness returns as fate." So many people think they're just unlucky in love, or constantly overlooked at work, or sabotaged by the world. But often they're repeating unconscious patterns they've never confronted. They fear intimacy, or success, or visibility, and they live their whole lives caught in a loop of avoidance. The unconscious is like a dark mirror. It shows you who you really are, not who you wish you were. And that's what makes it so powerful and so terrifying. Because if you're brave enough to look into that mirror, to see what's been hidden, to bring it into the light, then you can begin to live differently. You can start making choices that come from your truth, not your fear. And that's how you stop wasting your life. You stop living someone else's script, you stop running from yourself, and you start living like you actually matter.